If we could just imagine and even, yes, reimagine the scene of the gospel, perhaps it will not be a surprise if we turn toward or be inclined toward Lazarus. In today's gospel, Abraham tells the rich man who is asking Lazarus for help that Lazarus cannot help him even if he wanted to. Abraham tells the rich man, between us and you, a great chasm established to prevent anyone from crossing who might wish to go from our side to yours or from your side to ours. Quoting Deacon Steve in his reflection, I can understand why a soul wants to leave the netherworld for heaven. But why would you want to leave heaven and visit the netherworld? Come to think about that. People in heaven, like Lazarus, they understand suffering and they can intercede for our brothers and sisters. It is in the heart of Jesus and us to help others. It is the Holy Spirit, too, that guides and reminds us to know what is right or wrong, to feed the hungry, to help the poor, to clothe the naked, to visit the prisoners, and to be there for someone who is lost, who is grieving, and yes, who may be suffering. Here on earth, many of us have built our own great chasm. Out of fear, time restraints, misunderstandings, and yes, even our prejudices. God showers us with so many blessings and richness in life that we cannot even count. Sometimes through our human weaknesses, we build this chasm and indifference, and it stops there. We are enriched and blessed by God, but have we reached out to others, especially those who are in need? Today, the Lord is asking us to reflect, what have we done to the least and the last of our brothers and sisters? Are we complacent? Have we become indifferent and continued to build walls or build this chasm that separates us from one another? Here at Holy Spirit Church, the homeless come and go. And thank God we have the St. Vincent de Paul always to assist those who are needy and the underprivileged of our community. I'm not going to name this homeless lady, but when I first saw her, I already built a chasm between us because I've heard her get agitated and get upset outside when she's asking for something and people respond unkindly to her, or she gets upset with the way she gets a response, depending on the response. And so I tried to stay away from her. But then one day I decided to bridge the gap and the chasm and ask, because she kept holding a baby doll, and if you talk to her about this doll, she'll get upset because it's not a doll, it's her baby. Later on, I found out that this homeless lady, lost a child. And upon losing the child, she had a nervous breakdown. She lost a job, and lost a home, and lost everything. And the only remaining reminder of her child is the doll. Initially, when we look at her and we see her, when we hear her talk, we build that chasm. These are the kinds of people we stay away with and stay away from, right? But we can bridge the gap. We can bridge the chasm. the chasm of indifference by reaching out to others through the blessings that God has provided us. God cannot be outdone in generosity. He always gives us something small, and He gives us even blessings and graces to make that small gift bigger. So let me illustrate God's innumerable blessings to us through a basket of apples that I went to the market with and bought them last night. So, I will just illustrate that God gives us at least 10 apples. You can even call more than 10 that God has given you. 10 apples for God to show us how much He loved us and how much He blesses us to survive and thrive even the basic needs of our lives. God gave us the first apple, and that apple is to pay for our car payment, right? God gave us that apple. God gave us another apple to pay for our health insurance, right? We pay for health insurance. God gave us another apple for travel, leisure, and recreation. We spend money for that, right? We do. Then God gave us another apple for our house payment. Housing in the Bay Area? Ooh. God gave us another apple for car insurance. You need to pay that car either every 6 months, every year, right? To pay that car. God gave us another apple to pay for education, either our education or the education of children, right? God gave us that apple. God gave us another apple for food. One of the basic needs, food, shelter, clothing. We pay for that apple. God gave us another apple for clothing. Some signature clothing, some not. Right? God gave us another apple for our health and fitness. That gym. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, you know. You sign up for those health programs, right? And God gave us the 10th apple for our church donation. Right? So God gave us 10 apples to begin with. The 10th apple is a church donation. But isn't it true that sometimes we bite the 10th apple even before we give it? It is the least and the last. But God gave us 10 apples for our lives. Well, to be more vulnerable to you as your pastor for the last couple of years, I've just observed that our main plate collection has gone down. And I've never talked to you about this since I came, because I know how generous you are. I understand that life is difficult outside. I know how pressured you are, but I know too how generous you are and compassionate. That you don't forget these apples, especially the 10th apple. Just a reminder, you know, when family meetings happen and the father of the house just says, you gotta be reminded of a few things. Don't forget to turn off the lights. Don't forget to close the door as you walk out. Don't forget to drive safely. Watch out. This is just one of those. Don't forget the 10th apple. And don't bite the 10th apple. Just give it the way God has given it to you. And God will bless us more than we can imagine. Perhaps, yes, we can build and bridge the chasm. And offer to God, back to Him, all the apples that He has given us, lovingly, gracefully, faithfully, for our family. Amen.